Here to react, Mary Walter, host of Mary Walter Radio, and Karoline Leavitt, Republican congressional candidate in New Hampshire, former NCAA athlete and former assistant press secretary under President Trump. Mary, we begin with you. Welcome, ladies, by the way. Schumer was gleeful at raising taxes. You heard him there. He claims it was only aimed at the rich, but the income tax started with a promise only to tax the rich, and we all know where that led. The alternative minimum tax promised it would only target 150 rich families, and it's impacting millions of us. Democrat tax hikes always harm the most vulnerable in our society. Is that not true?
Absolutely. But they're also the people who vote for the Democrats over and over and over again with this promise of freebie this and freebie that. And we're going to give you this, this tax cut, and we're going to send you a check every so many months. So, I kind of think like you get the government you vote for. If you haven't learned that they do this over and over and over again, you have no right to be surprised now. I am shocked at Joe Manchin, though. I really am. I don't know what happened behind closed doors, but I am shocked at Joe Manchin. Just one thing to remember here. I'm shocked at I am. But Kyrsten Sinema, she's the wild card here. Chuck Schumer and she do not get along. She holds all the cards right now.
He's a Democrat. He's a Democrat. I wasn't surprised at all. This is what Democrats do. They always go back on their word. They always lie. Look, let me bring Karoline in there. Many say we're seeing Democrats rush this bill before they get voted out in November. But we're seeing some warning signs. Washington Post running editorials like this, quote, "In a normal year, the GOP should sweep, but 2022 isn't normal." We saw a lot of this stuff leading after the 2020 election. What is being done in your state to make sure every legal vote is counted?
Well, first, let me just address your point, Chris, that Democrats lie. My Democrat opponent here in New Hampshire is also lying, not surprising at all. He has always said he will never vote to raise taxes on middle-class New Hampshire families like my own, but then he supports socialist spending sprees that will inevitably raise taxes and tax hikes higher than communist China. So the Democrats are liars. Voters are waking up to that. But to your point about the media, I worked in President Trump's White House press office and saw this Democrat regime media machine come after us right before 2020. They were censoring and silencing positive and truthful stories about President Trump, and then censoring and silencing negative stories that were harmful to Joe Biden. So the media plays a massive role in election interference. Here in New Hampshire, I want to ensure that it's the state and local governance that is protecting election integrity, not bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., like my opponent, Chris Pappas, who voted in favor of H.R. 1, which is a federal steal of our elections.
Fair enough. Mary, I want you to tackle this one. Actually, I want you both to tackle this one. In the middle of everything that's going on, the New York Times claims that Fox has banned President Trump from their network. Now, on one hand, you see how this could be true with all the Never Trump influences over there, like, Neil Cavuto, Karl Rove, former host Chris Wallace. Still, it's the New York Times, not known for their fair and accurate reporting on what conservatives are all about. So, Mary, you start first. What's your take on this story?
There again, this ties in with your last story. It's the media. They're trying to push opinion the way they want it. Like, oh, you can't still support Trump. Look, even Fox isn't supporting Trump anymore, to try to make you feel like, oh, well, maybe he's not the right guy for the job. Because I do think there is a very strong push for DeSantis on the right as well. There's a lot of people who really like Ron DeSantis and kind of maybe would want to see him run instead of Trump, because there is some Trump fatigue out there among voters. If he runs, I think the majority of people are going to support him. But there is that sliver that the media thinks maybe we could push them away from Trump, and that's what they're trying to do, in my humble opinion.
Well, I love both those guys. I mean, they got great track records, great conservative track records. And Karoline, got about 45 seconds, but they're all yours. Do you want to address the alleged ban of Trump from Fox?
This is the media just trying to spin nonsense and chaos within the Republican ranks because they realize their puppet, Joe Biden, is a disaster. Let me tell you, I talk to Republican voters in New Hampshire every day. They support President Trump. He will be our nominee in 2024. We will take back the House first this year. When I'm elected, we'll take back the White House too, and we'll put America first again.
Mary Walter, Karoline Leavitt, thank you very much, guys. Appreciate the conversation. Spirited one, too. Just when you thought the left couldn't